Wednesday, Friday at 11.
Hello, and we are streaming, and Phil is just randomly reading through text.
Hello.
That's what Phil likes to do. I'm going to read some text now, y'all.
Listen, I like to read books, websites, end of list. All right, so welcome to the Friday Beamdog stream, where we talk about all things Beamdog, primarily Dungeons and Dragons related, because those are most of the games that we seem to be putting out these days.
I think we have most of them.
Well, D&D is near and dear to our hearts because, you know, I'm a big nerd. Trent is a larger nerd. Physically.
There was a lot of things that were big in my childhood, and D&D left a really big stamp.
Well, then you must be really enjoying Stranger Things. So, Neverwinter Nights, Enhanced Edition. Have you heard about it? It's incredible. We're re-releasing Neverwinter Nights as an Enhanced Edition. And if you buy it now, you can get access to the Head Start program, which lets you come in and sort of direct what we're doing. What would you like to see in an Enhanced Edition? What features and improvements would you like to see? So, hey, if you haven't gotten Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition, please grab it on Beamdog, come into the Head Start program, and you can tell us what you want to see.
Yeah, so Head Start is really us opening up the game early on when we're in development so we can get feedback from the fans and take that feedback and use it to drive the direction that we take development. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're game developers. We get ideas. We're like, hey, I'm going to do the thing that makes the thing that does. And we like to do that. But at the same time, that might not be the features that our fans want. So I think the whole concept of Head Start was, let's get it out really early, let's keep it playable, and let's let people contribute their ideas and their concepts, and we'll start marching it forward. So kind of along those lines, we got the Trello board up. So there's actually two Trello boards. There's the one of, this is the stuff we're working on directly, and then there's the input board where all the discussion is happening and it's driving it forward. So if we look at the Neverwinter Nights input board, people are voting on kind of what's the most wished for stuff. What would they like to see happen? Mm-hmm. And there's things that weren't on our radar that have now spawned a lot of internal conversations.
So we take a look at the input Trello board, we can see, so most wished for example, create a new premium module or campaign. People are really interested in new content for Neverwinter Nights, which to me was a surprise because my perception of Neverwinter Nights was, hey, there's already a galaxy of this amazing content that people have been producing for 15 years or so.
It's been a while.
And the fact that people are hungry for yet more premium content is amazing. I mean, I'm really happy that people want to see more Neverwinter content, and we're very eager to produce it.
Yeah, and like most wish for, 104 upvotes, update the player character models. That has spawned a ton of discussion, and it has actually spawned me firing up 3D Studio Max, which I haven't done for a long time. And then there was an element of me recoiling in horror as I tried to wrap my mind around the Cthulhu-esque knowledge required to create Neverwinter characters and character models that you could export into the game, and there was a lot of me making funny gestures about things I'd like to do, and then eventually I realized that I was approaching madness, and I had to shut it down.
So your history with Neverwinter and 3D is, as I recall, you created all of the weapons in Neverwinter Nights yourself by hand.
Not by hand, but by 3D Studio.
By mouse.
Yeah, by mouse. So I modeled. So my typical day on Neverwinter was to roll into the office early, like 8 o'clock, and then I would work a full day until about 6 p.m., and then at 6 p.m. I would eat dinner, and then from there until I went home, I would model weapons because I found it relaxing and therapeutic. And also, we needed the weapons to get done, and there were other better skilled artists who were better spent doing other content. So
let's pause here.
Yep.
You find creating weapons relaxing and therapeutic.
I do.
Okay.
That is my happy place. Making things that can do grievous harm to other things. God, I'm a dark individual. I need help.
All right, so in a little bit, we got a special treat for you guys. And the last few streams, we've been looking at the original official campaigns. We looked at a premium module, well, not a premium, homemade module that somebody constructed. And this week, we're going to actually be checking out a persistent world. And Neverwinter Nights was actually kind of famous for its persistent worlds because this was... In 2003, this was a bit of a new concept.
It was a crazy, exciting idea. It's like, hey, rather than go in the play in the persistent world that somebody else imagined, and where you've got to fight 1,000 rats so that you can kill larger rats, so that you can then kill larger rats, and eventually move up to killing near humanoid creatures. What if you could run your own MMO that was cool for you and your friends? Other people might find it weird and bizarro and just not want to get involved with it, but you could make the ultimate little game for yourself. And to me, that was one of the most exciting kind of aspects of the Neverwinter Nights concept. The game plus the tools plus the DM client allowing you to run your own persistent worlds, and then being able to portal from one adventure to another. It just made this infrastructure of possibility that no one else really, I think, ever tried to do again. And that's one of the things I was most excited about to come back to.
Yeah, I think so in 2003 when Neverwinter came, or was it 2002? 2002 or 2003?
I don't remember. There was this dark period where my
A
recollections
period of time in the early 2000s.
It was 2002.
It was kind of a really exciting thing because at that time, MMOs almost universally cost money. And it was like $10 a month, that sort of thing. And to see this game where you buy it once and you have access to a whole bunch of micro MMOs was such a cool thing. And that's what really drew me into Neverwinter Nights initially, is all of these different worlds that you could get involved with. So today we're going to be checking out a persistent world server that's been running for 15 years or so.
Yep.
They produced a new module specifically for Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition, and in a little bit we're going to check it out. It's called the Arelith EE beta server. So if you log in with the Neverwinter Nights Head Start client right now, you can actually get on there, create a character. I'm going to be joining you guys in a couple minutes here, and then we're going to go on a fun dungeon adventure. This is a whole new custom module that was created specifically for the Enhanced Editions, and it's fantastic. It really shows off what the community has been doing for the past 15 years. And we'll jump into that in a minute. But we just wanted to let you guys know we have a new Neverwinter Nights Head Start patch that came out yesterday.
Yes. So we fixed an error with OpenMP3. Playback would sometimes stutter on some files. We've done a fix on the Shadows of Undertide campaign where Dorna was disappearing when she died, as opposed to kind of just remaining around, allowing you to kind of res her after the combat ended. Bacon miles are totally gone from the build, so we're completely over to the new open source stuff, which allows us to have MP3s without having to do the whole BMU thing that we used to do.
So, well, I'll let you finish.
And we've also made some security changes to the master server, so it actually authenticates accounts better. It's going to work better for persistent worlds, ensuring players and player numbers going forward. So we're really happy about kind of the direction things are going. We've got a question here, which, what does Beamdog mean? So Beamdog came out of this idea of building a digital distro platform that actually worked. So this was back when Steam was really bad. And the iPhone had just come out, and the iPhone was like, you go to the store, you buy the thing, and it just works. We're like, dude, we totally need to do that. So Beamdog is beam, transfer, and dog, companion. So he's your dog, he's your buddy, he loves you. He's like, you want to get some games, man? Let's get some games. I'm so excited. And he's never going to tell you what to do. He's just going to do what you want him to. So transfer companion, that's where Beamdog kind of came from.
The other option was Laser Cat, but that
no.
was shouted down, unfortunately.
No, the Web 2.0 name generator, I didn't even look at that one.
So I have a bit of a game devy question that I know our watchers really, really enjoy hearing about. So Miles and Bink.
Yar.
These are libraries that were provided back in the early 2000s. Licensed libraries that let you do video that had a lot of compression with low CPU overhead, and audio that had a lot of compression with low CPU overhead.
Yes.
Now, why was that necessary in the early 2000s but not today?
The big thing back then was there wasn't a lot of options. Like writing audio for yourself was a real pain in the butt, and especially trying to do it cross-platform. So Neverwinter being, at that time, it was on PC, it was on Linux, and it was also on PowerPC Mac, which was, man, did Howard suffer doing that build.
And while MP3s existed back then, I think that was still when there was that huge licensing cost.
Yeah, there was the Fraunhofer Institute had a licensing fee around it. So we actually licensed. It's funny because Neverwinter actually went through most of its development running OpenAL as the audio library, but then it changed over to Miles when we ran into that Fraunhofer Institute thing. So actually moving back to OpenAL was in some ways it wasn't too horrible, but at the same time, I mean, we did run into some definite kind of kludges here and some problems.
That's a little bit of background for why these changes were necessary.
Somebody is like, so I have a question here. So I have to complain to Trent because I think some weapons look ugly in the game. Yes, I am the one who made the ugly weapons. But if you want to complain, it is me that built them. I own that.
You have options here. If you can wrestle Trent to the ground, you can replace those models. So if you can defeat him in a feat of strength.
So the weapons really came out of a couple things. One is wanting a good variety, and we really focused with Neverwinter on the silhouette, so that from a distance, when your camera was zoomed out, you could make out what was going on. We really wanted axes and maces and such to be different, and obviously different. So we really kind of pumped up the differences between some of the weapons and others. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were weapons that I probably have the same amount of love for that you do, but yeah, one day I will poke some of them and make them better.
So before we head over to the persistent world that we were going to show off today, we just want to let you guys know that there's a Steam sale on right now. So if you're interested in getting any of the enhanced editions, including Planescape Torment, which is 66% off,
what?
Please head over to Steam and take part of the Steam sale.
Is that 66%?
Did you not
Are you
know?
sure? I thought it was 50.
Uh-oh. Well, before he fixes it, go grab the game, and
God damn it.
We will deal with that.
So it's time for one of those T-shirt giveaways.
Okay,
so
we'll do one
the
T-shirt
brilliant
giveaway,
Neverwinter T-shirt. Our first winner is Alpha Vans. Congratulations. These are pretty awesome T-shirts. They're actually really soft.
Soft. I'm not wearing. Well, I'm actually wearing a D&D T-shirt that was given to me personally by Nathan Stewart after he took me by the hand and said, "Phil, I both respect and admire you." So I feel like it has a lot of
deep and lovingly into your eyes. Phil,
all right. So
I respect you.
We're going to flip over to Neverwinter here, but while we're getting set up, there's a question of the real question, I guess, is when is the game going to be released on Steam? And I think the answer is, and some people might find it frustrating,
I think the answer is yes.
It's done.
The answer is yes. It will be released on Steam.
But when is when it's done? So
I think like I'm going to be totally brutally honest on stuff here. Is that when we launched Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition, it was a little rough, and years later, when you go back and you read the reviews, you type in Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition reviews, you get reviews of the original launch. The game's at 2.5 now. It's taken so many steps forward. It's so much better. But when people look at the reviews, they get the old reviews, and it drives me up the wall. We've stepped it forward so much. So with Neverwinter, I look at it, I'm like, when we launch this puppy, it's going to generate reviews that say this game is bloody awesome. You should buy it, and it's great. So we're really trying to make sure we get to that point where everybody would agree, yeah, Neverwinter Enhanced Edition, it's awesome. You should totally get it. So I think the moment we're confident the reviews will be that is when we're going to release it.
And the other important thing to realize is that if you really want to play it right now, you can. If you buy it on Beamdog, you still get a Steam key. So if you want to get access early but still have it later on Steam, it's totally available to you. You can get a key. Everything will be fine.
Yeah. So we've got a question here about, is there a plan on modifying sound within Neverwinter Nights, especially footsteps? When you're using the tool set, you need to make the other audio loud to mask the very loud footsteps. It would definitely help server development-wise. You know, I haven't really thought about that one. I think the right thing to do is put it up on the forums, try and push it up. Because, I mean, one of the things that might just happen is that the original audio was mastered at too high of a level for footsteps. That's something we can just go back and look at and say, yeah, he's totally right. This kind of sucks, man.
All right, so we're starting to get ready for our Enhanced Edition Persistent World here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the server before we log in, but it's important to realize that this server is just one of many. So all of the work that you're about to see, there's a legion of people out there that are doing this, and there's a galaxy of stuff for you to discover. So we're going to hop onto a persistent world called Arelith. Now, Arelith, the main server's been running for about like 15 some odd years now, or no, sorry, 13 years. And it's this classic D&D experience that was constructed entirely by fans of the game, and they've been working on it for years and years and years, and it's just so dense with content and systems and features, and it's really a great example of what you can do with Neverwinter if you're really willing to take that extra step and spend the time building it.
Well, and persistent worlds are awesome, but there's also this megalithic volume of modules that are out there for a single player and for playing with your friends. So there's just so much in this game. This is why I was so excited to return to it. It's awesome. I got a question here about the original campaign. In the intro cinematic, Lord Nasher is shown being healed, while the narrator says, "Yet there are some things not all the courage in the world can stand against." I've always wondered, was Nasher secretly infected by the Wailing Death, but being able to withstand it better than the average citizen? So there was two kind of perspectives on this. One was that the not all things, not all the courage in the world can stand against, was kind of mentioning and throwing, foreboding the plague itself. And the other was a discussion that, yeah, Nasher wasn't infected with it, but he was being a stalwart hero and not showing and not admitting weakness. So the answer is possibly. In some people's minds, it was so, and in other people's minds, it was not. And since my mind is the only one that matters, yes, Nasher was infected.
There you go.
Because, God, I'm arrogant.
All right, so I'm going to hop on to the Arelith EE beta server here. Now, this particular module is a new one that they've constructed specifically for Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition to sort of start showing off the new features and things that you can do with the new version of the engine. Now, before we hop in, I invite everybody to come join me. I'm going to hang around in their starting town for a few minutes, and then we're going to go off on a little dungeon adventure. But before we log in, there are some server rules. So this is a role-playing server, so try and role-play while you're here. As well, there is PvP, but it's got to be role-play PvP. So if you're going to stab a guy in the guts, you should tell him why beforehand. And stealing. So if you're going to steal from somebody, don't do it too many times per day or you'll get in trouble.
And more than one time a day,
more than one time a day, yes.
So ultimately, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick is a pretty good rule for this server and life in general, I feel.
It is.
I don't know everyone's circumstances. Maybe being
unless your name is Richard, then I guess you can be a Richard.
To all the Richards out there.
Yeah. Yeah, to all the Richards, be a Richard. Don't be a dick.
All right, so I took the liberty of creating a character last night. And so the server admin, or one of them, is named Iron Gron, and he gave me a tour last night of their really awesome server that we're connecting to right now. And it was really neat to see the things that they've done. So I'm going to hang out in this town for a little while. If you guys are interested in hanging out, come join the server, and we will go on a little dungeon adventure together. But as we were looking around this town, he was pointing out a bunch of interesting things to me. So one of the things that you'll notice perhaps right away is the density of the props in the environment. Now, one of the things that they've done is that when Neverwinter Nights first came out, you couldn't really do what you're seeing right now. It was just too much for the machines to handle. So as people's hardware have gotten better, they've sort of raised the bar as to what you can see and do in these environments.
And we've also done some work specifically with feedback from our advisory group around trying to make it play a little better with the content and trying to make it better able to support stuff.
Now, one of the cool things that Arelith does is, so Neverwinter Nights supported these things called hack packs, which are essentially files that add new content to the game. But the problem with hack packs in the old version of Neverwinter Nights was that you had to download and install them outside of the game. So if you were connecting to a persistent world server that used hack packs, you needed to know what you were getting into beforehand. Arelith is slightly unique in this regard in that it uses no hack packs. Everything that you see on the server is part of the base game, so you can connect and start playing right away. Now, in the future, you know, hack packs, that situation might change. I think there's been some discussions around that.
It's one of the topics that we've talked about is like an auto-hack downloader. And we talked, as always, we've talked about every aspect of, well, it's a little utility that just does it for you that's very small and hidden, to it's the Cadillac feature that rolls into town and it tells you the name of the hack pack and it makes everything all happy. Ultimately, it's something we're really interested in. We're going to do a lot of poking around and think about best way of doing it. Another question here, which is how difficult is an LOD system going to be in Neverwinter Nights? Will we soon be given options to render active objects, not static, further out? This would especially be convenient with tile magic type stuff where it's currently effective effectively unusable outside of the smallest of areas. Neverwinter LOD's an interesting beast. So when we built Neverwinter, we built it with the character models essentially as low poly as we thought we could essentially get away with. So I came up with the rule, which is, okay, at any time I can see max 9 tiles at one time if my camera is top down. So when we built the original game, this was true. Each tile can at max have 1,000 polys. Each character should come in around that 1,000, 1,500 fully loaded, which means armor, weapons, everything. Characters, we allowed it up to 2,000 by the time we were done. So we knew this kind of load. The goal was to be able to do 30,000 polys on screen per frame, because running at 30 frames a second, that's 900,000 polys per second. So that was attainable with the graphics cards of the era. By Hordes of the Underdark, graphics cards had, of course, stepped forward. Performance was better. We could start upping poly counts, which is kind of what you see. Some of the Hordes content was a little prettier, a little better. But again, there was no LOD there. So it's really a question, I guess, what approach, if LOD is even required, or if the existing problem you're seeing where it's currently effectively unusable is more related to just inefficiencies in the system, or potentially it's just auto culling stuff based on the AI and the server kind of handling system. So not really a great answer on it. I mean, I don't know if LOD is the direction we'll take, but going forward, the idea of making things visible at further distance is definitely something we're looking at.
So one of the things that's really cool about Arelith and persistent worlds in general is it's called NWNX, I guess. It's the Neverwinter Nights script extender.
Yes.
So this is a server-side thing that server administrators can set up that let you drastically expand what the game can do. So with just my vanilla Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition client, I was able to connect to Arelith, and I can see all of the new systems that they've built. So one of the really cool things that I saw last night was they've actually built like little bar games, like darts. So check this out. I'm going to throw some darts. You get a score based on how well you throw them. You can compete with other players. And this is just one example out of hundreds of different little fun things that server admins have added to give their environments a little more life and excitement.
I don't think you're very good at darts there, Phil.
Well, my character isn't very good at darts, but personally, I'm a bit of a virtuoso. Now, we have some people actually starting to join the server. We've
Nice.
got them coming in. I've invited them to try playing darts with me. Now, again, this is a role-playing server, so you're going to see me role-playing a little bit. I play as Saman Karina, who is a barbarian, and in a little bit, he's going to lead anyone who's on the server on a little bit of a icy forest adventure.
So
oh man, this guy just summoned a beholder. Cool.
I have a question. How many units sold of the Enhanced Edition will it take to get Phil to stream Neverwinter while wearing a chainmail bikini? The answer is 1 million. If we hit 1 million copies of Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition, I will hold Phil down and put the bikini on him on the stream.
One copy of Neverwinter Nights?
1 million.
One copy
1
is all it takes for me
million.
to wear a chainmail bikini? Well, that's what
The
I
fact
heard.
that the fact that you're enthusiastic about this makes me very nervous.
Because I'm undercutting your ability to torture me by putting me in a chainmail bikini, by embracing it. I have a question. Have you guys started considering third-party contracted developers again, like Spots DLA and Oster used to fill? This seems like it could be a good way to quickly get new quality content into Neverwinter Nights. Good question.
That is a great question. At the moment, nothing official to announce there. I mean, we love the work the DLA guys and Oster guys did back in the day, and I think that's definitely something we're interested in going forward. Another question. Any ETA on when NWNX for Windows might be available? So we actually don't build NWNX. NWNX is actually built by the community. It's the extender for servers. So it's based on kind of their development timeline and the amount of time they have free to work on it. We have an advisor who works with us who's specifically deep in the guts of NWNX and has code access on our side, so can see what's going on in the game and allows essentially NWNX to be much more powerful and much more effective about what it's doing. But ultimately, the development of it comes down to what the group has time for. And We try to support them as much as we can, but at the same time, now, NWNX is really about allowing people to do stuff beyond what the game originally intended. So I think we really want to encourage that, but at the same time, we can't spend directly towards that. So we want to enable it and support it with information as opposed to hard development.
So we're still waiting for a few more people to join us, but in the meantime, I want to show you some more cool things on this server. So, of course, any good RPG has a bunch of shops, but the Arelith server actually lets players run their own shops to do a bit of role-playing. So again, like, these people have essentially constructed all of the major systems that you see in a large-scale MMO, but they've just built them for a small-scale audience. So everything that you can do in, you know, these player-driven MMOs, you can do in Neverwinter. And in fact, in some cases, it's a little more satisfying because you have direct contact with the people constructing the content. You have direct contact with the dungeon masters who are logging in and interacting with the people that are playing. So here in this building, the trading post, there's player shops that you can interact with. And I love the detail that they've put in here, the snow coming through the door, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it looks good.
And as well, one of the things Arelith has added is crafting and resource gathering. So you can actually go into the wilds, chop down trees, mine stone, and there's hundreds of different crafting recipes. So they've added entirely new systems to the game that previously didn't exist. They've sort of expanded the systems that do exist. So for example, if I try to rest right now, you can see that it doesn't just sit the guy down and the bar comes up. A little menu appears and you can do a whole bunch of different things. So this is an example of the sort of things that you can do with NWNX to really extend the gameplay experience.
So it's time for a giveaway. So this time we're actually going to be giving away a digital deluxe Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition copy. And the winner is Bert Mac. All these names that we can't really mispronounce anymore.
You guys need to come up with better names.
Bert
all consonants would be cool. If you could put in some like foreign language characters, I think Twitch supports Unicode.
I think exclamation or not exclamation points. What am I thinking?
Interrobang.
No, not that at all.
All right, new topic. So I'm going to head back to the tavern in a minute and gather everyone up so we can go on a bit of an adventure here. But before I do, there's one thing that I wanted to show off. So you can see here at the edge of town, there's all this ice blocking the road. There's a bunch of stuff in the way. That's pretty cool, right? There was an avalanche. It blocks progress.
Happens.
But how did they achieve this effect? Because Neverwinter Nights didn't ship with huge chunks of ice. What they did was they took other types of terrain and they modified it to look as if it were ice, and then they placed it down to look as if it were blocking the road. Now, this is a pretty straightforward thing to do, right? Like take a shape, apply a different texture, you get a different thing. But what this represents is the fan base of Neverwinter Nights taking the original assets of Neverwinter Nights and using them in really novel and creative ways that we never could have predicted. So when we were talking about, hey, what if we made an HD version of Neverwinter Nights? We could just swap out all the assets with higher res versions. We realized that because people are using these assets in very clever ways, doing that would break things. So, for example, if we replaced all these things with very high detail rock slides, which is what they were originally, it might break this cool effect that fans have spent, years constructing and very carefully putting together. So while we are absolutely going to have, new Neverwinter content and graphics, we also don't want to break what was there originally because there's so much player-created content out there that's really, really awesome and was put together with so much time and care.
Well, I think the right answer is really we're going to step it forward with new content, not with redoing old. Mm-hmm. And that's really kind of the philosophy.
All right, so I'm going to head into the tavern here, and I'm going to see if anyone wants to join me for a bit of an adventure.
I really like that beholder.
He's so tiny. And his name is Balthazar.
I like Balthazar.
I'm going to do a little bit of role-playing here.
I don't know. Phil role-playing, this is dangerous stuff, man. here is a question. If we put an original copy of a previous premium module into Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition, does it still require the authenticator, or is that removed? I believe it still requires the authenticator. So the premium modules are kind of a separate beast from a contractual standpoint. So as such, we kind of like to keep them kind of in the box. There's really the box going forward will be kind of the official campaign stuff and then premium modules. And really we're going to try and kind of respect that paradigm going forward. Do you have much work left before the game is ready, fully playable, or are you still fine-tuning it is the current question. It's playable. It's working on a fine-tuning basis. We're not really fine-tuning. We're just adding new features and stepping stuff forward and opening things up whenever possible. So kind of the goal here is to make slow progress that's pretty steady, but making big improvements to the game and what the game can do as we go forward. And then when we reach a spot where we're confident that we're going to launch a good experience and reviews will agree with what we think the game is, then we'll go live with it. So the answer is we still have a fair bit of work left. I mean, there's some big things we want to do before we launch. There was another question here. What is the ETA on unlocking new spellbook creation? So spellbooks is a big discussion. We still have to think about the right way to tackle it. We don't want to go in and just kind of implement a half measure. I think if we attack something, we want to do it right. And in order to make sure we do it right, we need to hear from the people who are using it and how they want it done. So rather than just going in and implementing it how we think it should be, I'd really like to have a discussion back and forth, reach some consensus, and then once we've got consensus, it'll move from the input Trello into the progress Trello, and we'll see it marching forward.
All right, so I have successfully managed to gather a party together in this tavern here. After paying them off with both booze and gold, they're willing to follow me into the frozen wilds.
This is how Phil makes friends in the real world, with booze and gold.
What should our party name be? The Drunken Louts.
How about the Beholder and crew? Because he's obviously the best of you all.
He has a name, Trent. His name is Balthazar.
I've always had a soft spot for beholders.
Someone commented that Tiny Balthazar should be the new Beamdog mascot. Well, we'll need to talk to his owner first.
Yeah. He's only got a few eye stalks, so he's got a lot of time left to grow. Get bigger, get more eye stalks. He's just a little fellow. Will this be available on Mac? The answer is yes. We are actively developing it on Mac.
I can play on Mac right now, actually.
Yep.
It works great. It's also going to be available on Linux. Yep. So for all 5 of you on Linux, congratulations. That's mean. I'm sorry.
That you are mean, Phil.
But the thing is, they can't hear me because their sound drivers don't work. So how big is the current player base? Is it enough for testing? Yeah, there's actually a pretty huge number of players out there for Neverwinter Nights still.
It's really about getting the feedback on what people want. I mean, we're a little less worried about players just bulk throwing meat at a problem and trying to find bugs. It's more about trying to do fun and creative things with the game and enabling them to happen and opening them up. And I think you'd have a lot of fun just jumping in and playing with it. Oh, we got another question here, which is how many people are working on Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition right now? That is a good question.
It kind of varies based on what we're doing that week. So I think core team is at least 6 or 7 people right now. And then based on what we're doing.
Well, there's people like Phil and I were like part-time on a bunch of things. And I'm at best part-time on anything. For some reason, all the fires seem to happen in my office. And my firefighting skills seem to be required a fair amount. So there's internal, yeah, that's probably right. And then we've got some external people as well helping us out. So it's a pretty decent sized gang.
So we were just attacked by a pack of vicious wolverines, but we successfully managed to defeat them.
Don't run too far ahead of your party, Phil. That's how people die.
I'm going to wait.
Just don't run too far ahead of your party. Another question here. Are there plans for making any improvements to the tool set, especially in regards to the compiler? So that's one of the discussions right now that's on the input board. The tool set's it's a little flaky in terms of it's built in Borland C++ builder, and we're a little scared of it. But we have done some improvements on it. At the moment, it's not in active development, but if enough people vote it up and it becomes a priority, it's something we can definitely do.
So this is a pretty cool area. You can see that they've really taken the time to mess with the lighting and the coloring to give it a bit of a spooky feel.
Yeah.
And again, these are very densely populated areas that you couldn't really do in the original Neverwinter.
Nicely atmospheric effects. You're running into something, Phil.
Uh-oh.
This is
I've made a mistake.
Don't run away. Never run away. Attacks of opportunity, man. It'll kill you.
There we go. Oh, and check out the violent death things that spawn. You've got bones everywhere.
The massacre is complete.
Oh man, look at all this gear.
We got another question. Have you found something in the code that caused trouble in creating the EE? So the whole rendering pipeline was basically fixed function. It was designed around hardware back when OpenGL kind of really got big on the PC. We had to literally burn it to the ground and start over, and essentially re-implement the functionality of a fixed function pipeline inside a shader system, but at the same time leaving the door open for stuff that we can do going forward. So much of the code we found problems. I mean, anytime you go to a 15, 20-year-old code base, you find things that were, hey, this was really well designed for the way things were 15 years ago, when processors were single core, when graphics cards were fixed function, when very things were kind of very specific. So, I mean, we've run across a lot of areas where we're like, there's some code areas where we fear to tread. The tool set is one of those. We're scared of the tool set. It's one of those things where we really want to kind of build a good plan for what we're going to do, and then roll in, execute the plan, roll back, do a ton of regression testing to make sure that nothing is broken.
We're doing pretty good work here. We're just tearing these guys apart.
There was a comment that the Wolverines were apparently part mosquito. Holy crap, there was a lot of blood. So the blood brings to mind a story. So I was playing with the particle system in Neverwinter. I was actually building the first blood spawn system, and in Baldur's Gate, when you hit a character and you got a critical on them, or you did a ton of damage on them, they would chunk and break into pieces. So I wanted to do the same thing in Neverwinter. So I created this concept of a chunk, and then I wanted the chunk to bounce when it hit the ground, and I wanted it to spawn a little bit of blood. The problem is I actually messed up in the linking order. So a chunk didn't spawn blood, just blood. It spawned blood and chunks. So what happened was I went in, I hit a character, he died, he exploded into chunks. When the chunks hit the ground, they burst into even more chunks and blood, and even more chunks and blood, and basically my frame rate went from happy to literally seconds per frame as my screen completely turned red with these blood fountains that just kept spawning and spawning and spawning. Eventually I had to just Control Alt Delete Task Manager, shut it down because it had bogged the system so hard it couldn't move. And thus I learned the importance of linking order and priorities when setting up inheritance-style spawning systems.
So we just defeated this massive colossus made of bones, and we lost a couple party members, but we managed to resurrect them.
There was a very slow marching...
It means he's tougher than most. If somebody approaches you slowly with a weapon, it means that he knows how to use it.
They're looking at you like, I fear nothing. Apparently he should have been more fearful.
Apparently.
But there are missile weapons coming out of the dark there. I think you'd better get on that. Here's a question. How about making Neverwinter Nights 3 after this? Well, in order to make Neverwinter Nights 3, we'd have to be done working on this. And we're not going to be done on this for a while. I mean, part of my goal here is that this almost fills that slot. It becomes Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition is so awesome that, you know, a Neverwinter Nights 3 would kind of be like, why would you ever do that? This is like this is the bucket of awesome. All right. Next question.
We've made it to the Ghost Woods here.
Nice.
I think there's ghosts here, but I'm not sure.
It being called the Ghost Wood, I would believe so. And your sarcasm has no place here. Next question. Compared to Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and Planescape Torment, is Neverwinter Nights more of a challenge to restore?
I think it's less of a challenge in some ways.
It is. The code's better written.
Yeah.
Like BioWare, we learned a lot from Baldur's Gate. Specifically, a lot of how not to do things. And the other thing, when the Baldur's Gate codebase was initially put together, there was no concept of modding or people wanting to alter files and do new stuff. Whereas Neverwinter, that was a core concept. So it really allowed us to kind of go in and rethink the whole way that we built games. And I mean, there's some things in Neverwinter that are kind of terrifying. So it's like, oh my God, the way the multiplayer system hooks up and the combat system's integrated into that, it's a pretty tight, sticky code base. There's a bit of spaghetti in there. So I think as we kind of roll it forward and unravel parts of that and unspaghettiify things, there's going to be some hard work there.
Oh, man. I'm trying to make camp here, and we're getting attacked by the undead.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I think generally a rule of thumb is whenever programmers are clever in one generation equals horror for the next generation. Baldur's Gate was really clever about a lot of 8-bit graphics and sampling it and bit shifting it so it worked on 16-bit graphics. Neverwinter's been 3D from ground up, so as a result, it just behaves so much better. I mean, I think at this point, with the enhanced edition of the Infinity stuff, we're probably 70+% through rewriting that entire code base. And with Neverwinter, I mean, we've gone in, all right, we did graphics engine, moved it over to shader-based. We've replaced audio and video, so we're moving down the path, but I think there's going to be a fair amount of stuff that's pretty awesome there.
Well, Trent, you're going to have to answer another question. I'll be back in 2 seconds. And then we're going to continue our Neverwinter Nights adventure.
That sounds reasonable. So we got a comment, maybe address... yeah, they're shooting. It sounds like they're shooting for games as a service model rather than discrete releases. You know, I don't think so. I think I always had the philosophy that anytime you get something, that should be of good value, and that's always kind of the problem I had with subscription services. With a subscription, you're basically paying for a right to do something, whereas I really like the Neverwinter concept of you've got the game, you've got expansions which you can purchase which offer new content. It's good value for the money. And then you've got these premium adventures which are also these small little discrete things at a much smaller price point that allows you to jump in and play it. I don't think we'll ever charge Neverwinter as a subscription thing, but I think going forward we really always want to have that you spend dollars, you get good value. That's really kind of the goal. There's another question which is why did BioWare step back from the openness of Neverwinter Nights and make KOTOR, so Knights of the Old Republic, totally closed and unmoddable? So KOTOR was based off of the same underlying graphics engine and same kind of rules approach, but the team went really in a different direction. I mean, it was a reasonably tight timeline. It was our first time working with Star Wars, and at the time LucasArts was very hands-on in how things were done and how things would be represented. So I think it wasn't a deliberate approach to make the game unmoddable. I think it was an approach to how do we make the best game we can as quickly as possible. And in some cases that closed a lot of kind of modding doors, and it really just closed a lot of possibilities off simply because the team was trying to make the best thing they could and do it quickly and do it bug-free and make an enjoyable experience that was actually fairly different from what Neverwinter Nights was.
Whoa. So I'm going to be reconnecting to the server in a minute here, but So we worked out a bit of a deal. Normally, these streams go for about an hour, but because we're having such a great time on the Persistent World server, we're going to go a little bit longer.
Which is why Phil had to take a bathroom break. He was like, oh my God, not going to make end of stream.
It wasn't a bathroom break. I just needed to spend some time next to the toilet. Why do you have to turn it into a bathroom break?
Oh, we got a big question here.
Okay,
it's got many words. Are there plans to make any improvements to the shifter class so that more than a few of its pre-epic forms are useful? For example, arguably the Harpy, Medusa, and Basilisk are useless due to low DCs. The Wormlings are quite weak for the level you get them, and the Dire Tiger is worse than a Druid can get in Dire Bear form. I haven't even thought about that. Ultimately, that comes down to if it's important, talk about it on the forums, get it pumped up. We'll get it moved to the input board, and from the input board, if it gets enough loving, it moves over to the in progress. That's really the way, that's our process going forward. So we want to make sure we hit the big features that are impacting a lot of people.
Yeah.
And this shifter class one, I mean, this can be kind of a modish thing. I see how one could go in and kind of change the data to make the spawning creatures a little better, but for official campaign stuff and non-modded, I think for a while it's going to be like it is, unless it's really important and it gets upvoted, at which point we're like, oh, I guess that really matters. We should totally put some work at it.
All right, we're back in.
Excellent.
So we've got our little party here. We've got 5 different people here. One of them has a little kobold pet.
Kobold.
Sorry.
Beholder. Kobolds are small
I got kobolds
lizard-like
on the mind.
things.
I made a joke about kobolds earlier, and I can't stop thinking about them.
You just went to the bathroom and you come back thinking of kobolds. You got problems, man.
What do you think I do in there? So I don't know if you guys were able to see it earlier. It's not super apparent right now, but one of the things that the Arelith server has added is dynamic weather, which will change and shift based on time of day and whatnot. And also there's different effects that can happen based on the weather.
We're totally not going to eat on camera.
Oh, man. All right. We're going to take a brief intermission here while I tell you about this pizza. So,
oh, that smells good.
There's this place in Edmonton, Alberta, which is where we're located, called Versato's Pizza. And they have this special pizza that is basically just a brick of pepperoni with a thin 1 millimeter layer of cheese and a crust below. And if you look, I don't know how much you can see here because it's going to fall apart.
Pepperoni.
This is a disgusting amount of pepperoni. And the people who order it, it's not funny. It's a waste of pepperoni.
No, it's not. It's pepperoni and ham. It's goodness. It is goodness in a pile. There's a pile of goodness there.
There's such a thing as too much. Would you buy like a big thing of pepperoni and just take a big bite out of it? Because that's what you're doing here. That's exactly what this is.
It's all about presentation. This is artistically presented to me.
I don't want to eat
It's not just a raw slab of meat. So we got another question. Does Wizards of the Coast check the evolution of your game, and can this eventually lead to something new? So we talk to Wizards of the Coast every week.
Yeah. Actually, I think more than once a week.
Yeah, sometimes twice. Well, usually once a week at least. But there's always a ton of back and forth going on. We love working with them. We love D&D, and we've got a lot of products that are D&D based. So I think as a result, just having constant ongoing conversations is a real positive for us. And we're constantly always talking about the future and what could come next, what could be the next big thing that we do. And
actually, I mean, it's not as if Wizards of the Coast is super hands-off or anything. We commonly discuss like plans or ideas and like, hey, what do you guys think about this? They pitch ideas to us. We pitch ideas to them. It's a very back-and-forth process. And they're deeply involved in, I think, the development of all of our D&D games.
It's a really good relationship. Yeah. And we give them a lot of feedback on what we love, and they give us feedback on the game and the experience that we're doing.
And we've heard and seen a lot of horror stories about working with intellectual property holders. But honestly, Wizards of the Coast has been so easy to work with.
Well, I've worked with Wizards of the Coast for pretty much most of my game development career, and the people there are great. We love working with them. They're just so great to work with. It's awesome. I got another question here. Is there any chance for lower voted features to be picked up? It's going to mostly depend on if that feature is really quick and easy to implement. Because sometimes we'll look at one and we're like, hey, is there an easy win feature? It's like, yeah, that one's like 3 lines of code, take us a couple minutes to do. We'll totally go there. But for the most part, I mean, eyes are going to be on the big money features that people are saying this is important to us. Because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the input board is the community endorsing things, saying this is important to me. And based on that, we'll go for it. We'll say, okay, if the vast majority of our user base believes that this is important, feels a jerk. That's what we're going to focus on.
It's just all pepperoni.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
I don't see you eating yours.
I have willpower. You have none.
It's true.
You sadden me, Phil. Here's the next question. How much of the 3.0 rule set are you going to modify? And how is that going to affect backwards compatibility? Again, we have kind of a rule, which is don't change things just for the sake of changing things. Open them up. So what we will do is we will, wherever possible, de-hard code things that have been hard-coded to date so that we can open up servers and modules to make the changes to open those rules and do more. When you get the base game and you play the base game, it's going to be the familiar 3.0 rules that you're familiar with. And we don't want to affect backwards compatibility. We want it to be 100% backwards compatible. So I guess the answer there is we're not going to modify it. We're just going to open it up, and we're going to let people open it up as they go forward. Whoa, somebody summoned a zombie. You know, one thing I always thought about Neverwinter was that just all the dynamic effects going off was really what made it look good. Like, when you look at a screenshot of Baldur's Gate, it's really pretty art. When you look at a screenshot of Neverwinter, it just doesn't do it justice because so much about Neverwinter is the dynamic nature of it and the movement that's going on. Whoa, lightning strike. That's pretty awesome. Here's another question. What do you think is more difficult, creating a AAA game from the ground that can fail, or working on an old AAA game like BG, Icewind Dale, PST, Neverwinter Nights, and risking the legacy?
Well, I guess, what do you mean by difficult
so
there?
I'm going to tackle that one and basically say, when I started out making video games, it was really hard to make video games. It was horrible. I mean, there wasn't an internet. You couldn't go to Stack Overflow and say, how do I do the thing that does the thing? You had to buy books and read them, and quite often you had to sit in the dark in a room by yourself and bash your face against a monitor until finally you realized why your code wasn't working. Today, the scenario is so different. The tools are so much better and so much more accessible. It's easier to make a game than it ever has been. But at the same time, there's massive marketplaces like Steam where there's so many games it's almost impossible to get attention. So right now, I mean, creating a AAA game from the ground up without a massive marketing spend would be a really bad idea. You're going to have to sell that new idea, that new concept to a market. You're going to have to build a market out of nothing to get people interested in that. Whereas working with an older AAA game, you've kind of got that market there, as long as people are still hanging around. And I think as long as you understand the core of what made the old game great and you're willing to kind of commit to that and carry that forward, I don't think you worry about risking the legacy much.
Sorry, I'm just role-playing here.
That's all good.
Talking to the Jarl.
I was really talky there, so.
Okay. Uh-oh. He's talking to us now. A vision of some horrible revenant appears in the wake of the lightning, rumbling some furious words. Whether it can be... Well, sorry, I misread that. Whether it can understand or even hear the gathering is uncertain. More interlopers, be gone from here.
I think you guys are in the right place. Anytime somebody is foreboding and with threatening words, you're in the right place.
That's what I love about D&D. Monologues, lightning, the undead.
Summon zombies.
Summon zombies.
We got another question. What is the one feature that fans keep on asking for and think would be really easy to do, but is actually fiendishly difficult and probably won't happen? I.e., what's one feature we shouldn't get our hopes up for? Wow.
Uh-oh, I'm dazed.
That is a big question. I think toolset stuff is really terrifying because the toolset is... It's hard to work on. It's really difficult to work on. User interface changes right now are really painful. Like when I keep talking about going to war on the UI, that's a big job. That's going to be a massive job. But at the same time, we're going to kind of commit to it. Dan suggests enemy AI as one. I mean, ultimately, enemy AI is script-based. So it comes down to... it comes down to what's been implemented. And what's there is it's pretty solid. It works fairly well. I mean, could it be better? I think anything could be improved, but it's all about time, right? It's all about where do we put in the effort that makes the game better for the most people. And it's really, I don't think anything's impossible. I think some things that are just too big in terms of the amount of work required, we're just not going to be able to get to them. Oh, we got another question here, which is, do you have plans for how fan-made content for Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition will be curated and highlighted? No. We have ideas. And I think this is one of the big things we want to do is discuss with the people who are making the content on how best we can curate stuff and highlight it. Because there's so many good modules out there that a lot of people just don't get exposed to. You buy the default game, you fire up the original campaign, you play it for a while, you had fun, you're done, you walk away. Missing all of this brilliant content. Whereas what I really want to happen is I want people to discover those modules and be able to play them and have fun with them. So it's something we really want to do, but it's a question of what's the right way to do it. And that's kind of the ongoing discussion around it right now.
One of the cool things about the Arelith persistent world server is that they simulate things like how warm you are, your hunger, and your thirst levels. Some people don't like that stuff. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's a neat little addition to the game. So if you find a water source, you can drink it. Here we found a stream in the bottom of this dungeon. We can all drink up.
I don't know if I would recommend dungeon drinking.
It's just water. What's the big deal?
It could be bad. There's a question here. I understand that Wizards has the okay to do a new D&D game. Is it possible to make a new D&D game with the Infinity engine, or does it have to be Does it have to be 3rd edition rules? And can't do 3rd edition Infinity engine. Infinity is really hard to work with in terms of building new content. It's got some very specific ways of doing things. And based on that, we've really kind of made the decision of okay, we're going to enhance what was there, but we're not going to build new content with this. And it really comes down to not really Wizards saying they want to or not. It really comes down to us just looking at it and saying, these games are, for their time, the best that they could be. But I think nowadays, if we were to come back and look at the same concept, we would build it differently. It's about that time. I think we should give away another T-shirt.
All right. So
you can give away the T-shirt while I eat the pizza because my willpower is failing as my pizza is cooling in front of me.
So the winner of a Neverwinter Nights T-shirt, as Trent is getting grease all over his, is Harmless Care Bear. You won a T-shirt, buddy. So we will contact you, get your address and other pertinent information, and then give it to you. Uh-oh, what have we found here?
I apologize for all the eating sounds because I am totally going to munch on this pizza right now. Manger.
I don't have a torch.
What kind of adventurer goes to a dungeon without a
torch?
Spellcasting.
I regret every decision I made.
As well you should, young Phil. You're down to half health, my friend. Would be a good time to do some potioning.
No, see, I have a health kit that I can use. My party's taken the heat off, which is perfect. See, that's just what I need. I'm a great D&D player as long as I have a party who can soak up all the damage for me.
Question for Phil. Which would you rather have stuck in your head for the rest of your life? The Space Harrier theme or the Bubble Bobble theme?
The bubble bobble theme immediately. do 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 do. I'll stop. I'll stop right now.
Please stop, because that's not a very good rendition.
Man, I love Bubble Bobble, and you know what else I love was the what was that one where you shoot the bubbles up? It was what was it called? I can't remember. I'm gonna be mad now that I can't remember it.
Bubble Bobble?
No, okay, so there was Bubble Bobble, which was the two dragons blowing bubbles to get to the end, which I've beaten,
which was awesome. You beat it?
It was an awesome game, and it was very hard to beat. And then there was, what was it called? Something. Bust a Move. Yes, thank you. That's what it was.
Bust a Move. I'm trying to remember that.
Bust a Move was awesome. There's been like a million versions of it.
I don't know. Bubble Bobble was better.
All right, so I'm just making sure that everyone in the party has written their will.
Question. Are you going to implement unreleased modules like Witch's Wake 2, The Witch Hunters, Hex Coda, Darkness over Daggerford, and Tyrants of Moonsea? Witch's Wake 2, Witch Hunters, we have no plans. Hex Coda, no official plans. Darkness over Daggerford, I'm interested in that one. I'd like to do something, but nothing official there. And Tyrants of Moonsea. I mean, I'm interested in all of them. It's just a question of what's the right way to do it, and what's the scenario that we could actually do it properly. So
we are getting beat up here. We found some dead cultists and a whole whack of undead. I better take out this priest before he gets off some spells here.
Always hit the spellcaster. First rule of Conan.
Stab the soft one first.
Stab anybody who's making gestures like that look slightly magical. They need to die, and they need to die fast.
So the Arelith server is pretty heavily inspired by Norse mythology, and it's got kind of an Icewind Dale feel to it. They spent a lot of time, like, it's D&D appropriate, but they've also crafted a lot of their own lore, which is really, really cool. Well, it looks like we're almost to the Jarl here.
Question here: seeing what have become of the Enhanced Edition, do you think you might other people might contact you to restore their game? Maybe the Ultima. I talked to EA about the Ultima series years ago, and they had some plan to do something, and then they did their Legends of Ultima thing online, and it was I don't mean to be cruel, but it was a dog. So, I mean, they were not receptive at all, and I haven't reached out to them again since. But
if anyone out there has the ability to make an Ultima 7 deal happen, please contact me.
I was thinking Ultima 3, dude.
Ultima 7 was the good one. Well, they were all good except for 8, and 9. But Ultima 7 was the one for me because it was practically an operating system by itself. It was so intense. What did it come out in, like 93 or 94 or something?
That was the one with the infinite inventory where you could just keep.
It was the one that Ultima Online was most heavily modeled on.
Yeah, because I remember basically, like, to that point, I had been trained by RPGs to pick up everything. So I'm going through and I'm looting people's houses. I'm stealing all their silverware and blankets and everything. And I'm like, man, I'm loaded down. What's going on? What's wrong? I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not supposed to take all their silverware and stuff.
So. Well, that's one theory.
And Ultima 7, you had to do the jump puzzle, right? With the controller that wasn't so good?
No, you're thinking of a different game.
Which one? Was that Ultima 8?
I think Ultima 8 was more Diablo style, and that's the one that had jumping.
Okay, yeah, 8 is the one I'm thinking of right now.
And then there was Ultima Ascension, which was kind of like Morrowind-ish.
Yeah, Morrowind-ish.
But that one
that one was some bugs in there.
Yeah.
I remember falling through the world. And
that was the one that would corrupt people's saves constantly. And yeah, it was a bit of an ordeal at the time. I have led the party into a bad place. And I will apologize, but not actually do anything to fix it.
Just never retreat.
Yep.
Attacks of opportunity, man. Fear. We've got a question here. What about adding the most popular tile sets created over the years, example, medieval tile set, as base content rather than having to add hacks? I like the idea. On a level, what we'd have to do is we'd have to set up a contract around that, because anything that we distribute, we have to own it to be able to sell it or to package it with what we're doing. So it'd come down to basically whoever's kind of responsible for creating it. The only blocker I can see is when there's multiple people involved. We'd have to get permission from all the people. Whoa, Phil's entire party has been decimated.
That's a party wipe.
That is a party wipe. What is the slime thing that is killing everybody?
It's a crypt slime, a greater one, but it was we were so close to killing it too, and we just got overwhelmed.
Brutal. Pretty hot debate going on, adding a 4th class option for character multi-classing. I see Trent weighed in on it, and it sounds like at the moment it's probably not the high on the priority list. 4th class really comes down to UI. That's where kind of major limitations are. There's some other limitations in the game. I'm sure there's some hard-coded 3 classes stuff going on. Again, if it's not top of the input list, we're going to focus the time on the stuff that people are telling us is the most important. Mm-hmm. And right now, I mean, 4th class it's trending up a bit. If it trends up to the top for a while, we'll take a serious look at it. Got another question. Any thoughts on making a D&D 5th game that's as good as Neverwinter BG, for example? Or is D&D 5th not a good addition for computer games?
I think it's actually pretty good.
I think 5th would be awesome.
Yeah. 5th takes all the problems, well, not even really problems, but just 4th edition.
You're being killed, man.
Jeez.
Go fight.
All right.
Slime thing is on you.
I'm so sick of this slime.
Kill it with fire. Kill it with fire. We love 5th edition. We think it'd be awesome for a game. And, I mean, ultimately, we'd like to get there. Next question. Are you going to support the GOG version to the same extent as the Beamdog and Steam versions? What I mean is achievement support and rolling updates at the same time. So Steam's a really big customer base, and having to implement achievements both for Steam and for GOG is a bit of a pain in the butt. It's something we try to do, but at the same time, we've got to look at putting the value where the biggest customer base is. And Steam is a much bigger market than GOG. So I think going forward, we'll try to support them, but every time we've got to put additional work on bringing a platform up to parity, it's work that's not getting spent elsewhere.
Uh-oh. We have some zombies entering the fray now.
Oh, Phil,
you lost. This was not my fault. I maintain that.
I think it's always your fault.
None of this was actually because of me.
So here's a question: Gestalt classes win. Racial Paragon classes win.
Uh-oh.
Again, if it gets voted up the list, that's when it can happen. Wow, Phil respawned from death.
I appear to be in hell. Let's find our way through the undead layer. So on this server, when you die, and actually die, not just get knocked out, you have to find your way through the underworld to get back to life. A little bit of shades of Planescape Torment here. But it's all in good fun.
You've got a party member with you, so you're not lonely in hell.
So this is why I love the Persistent World servers, is that they don't really need to conform to the common rules that most large-scale MMOs need to worry about, like we have to balance things for thousands and thousands of players. No, you can have fun little side adventures like, hey, if you die, you're in hell.
Yeah, I guess this is more of a purgatory than a hell.
Yeah. Let's see what happens when we go through the Soul Gate. Oh, I don't think we can yet. So we're going to hang out here for
The soul gate will open in 3 minutes. So apparently dying is a bad thing. You should attempt to not die so quickly.
So there's some other players here that have died, and we're just waiting to come back to life. So again, it is like purgatory.
I just saw a comment that it sounds like I'm eating finger bones. All I can say is that everything I do with gusto.
Gusto, including eating fingers.
When crunching finger bones, I crunch finger bones.
Just gonna do some role-playing here while dozens of people watch. Good times. Let's see how much time there's left on the soul gate. Oh, 2 minutes. So while we're waiting, I wanted to talk briefly about the Enhanced Edition. So the 2.5 beta is out
you mean
right now.
the Infinity Enhanced Editions?
That's right, sorry. The Infinity Engine Enhanced Editions, the 2.5 beta for Baldur's Gate 2, and Icewind Dale is available right now on Steam.
So standing around in a hostile dungeon is probably never a good idea.
Ah, we're good.
No, they are hostiles.
These are just dead spirits, so we're good.
Okay. I was potentially being a little overcautious there. Sorry.
So the 2.5 patch is out right now. It's focused primarily on multiplayer fixes and dealing with some crash issues that we've run into. We need more people testing the multiplayer, so before we wrap up the stream today, I'm going to set up a little Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition lobby, and we can tool around Candlekeep for a few minutes. But please, if you haven't tried it out yet and you are able to, check out the 2.5 beta. And it's on Steam, Beamdog, and Google Play. After the holidays, we're going to be pushing this live on all platforms, including the Mac App Store and iOS. So you're going to be able to, once again, do cross-play between all the platforms, and everything should be really, really nice. There are links to these betas or how to get at them on the Twitch page. So if you're watching right now, you can access that and take a look. We have a question. Let's take a look at some of the people in my party. So we've got Radamus. And he seems to be a spellcaster of some sort. If you examine him, it doesn't tell you a lot of details on this server. They kind of limit what you can see.
I think one of the reasons for that is just to allow for roleplay. I mean, sometimes you just don't want to be dictated by the class that you chose in terms of how you play. And when you run into somebody on the street, nobody looks at you and say, that guy is a third-level plumber. Nobody would know my level of plumbing, which is high, by the way. I'm an accomplished plumber.
Are you multi-class or are you just pure plumber?
I am multi-class.
All right.
I have so many classes that I've basically reached a point of. It takes me so many XP to level up now. It's brutal.
What new stories could you guys imagine the Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter universe? Well, they're the same universe technically. Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's
Forgotten
Gate,
Realms, man.
Forgotten Realms. So 5th edition now, if we were going to do a new D&D game, we would want to do it in the current version of the game. So 5th edition, and probably in the current timeline. And in the current timeline, they've sort of, I don't want to say they've retconned it, but they kind of rebooted a lot of the setting that they had changed since 2nd edition. So Baal is back, Bane is back, I think Merkel is back. So all the classic stuff that you might remember.
All the best guys are back.
Mid-90s, early 90s, all that stuff is true again. I don't know if we would want to, specifically go after the Baldur's Gate story or any of the particular Neverwinter Nights stories, but there's a million and one things that we want to do within the Forgotten Realms. And obviously we're not going to spill the beans now because we want to sell those adventures to you. But yeah, we definitely have some plans. We had worked up ages ago like a whole series of interesting campaign ideas, some of which linked into previously existing D&D products like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, some of which were standalone, were original. And there's no shortage of really cool things that you could do within the Forgotten Realms. I would personally love to do something set in Waterdeep. I think that's like the New York City of the Forgotten Realms. There's a million stories to be told there. It's this dense urban environment with a lot of cool things going on. There's Skullport beneath. There's Undermountain nearby. It's just a really, really cool setting.
You say that like New York's a good thing, Phil.
New York is interesting. It's fun, just like Waterdeep. And as well, you can get, a hot dog that has rat poop on it.
I'm kidding.
Just like New York.
Rat poop. And we got another question/statement here. I too live in Canada. Quebec and Montreal create a lot of games. How is business in Edmonton? Well, Edmonton's not bad. I mean, there's a decent little indie scene here. Bigger studios. There's basically us, the Bioware guys. There's the Serious Games guys over at Serious Labs. So it's a decent little scene. It's not crazy busy, but it's pretty good.
So obviously, it's not going to be anywhere near the size of Montreal or Vancouver, but for Edmonton's location, which is, super cold and isolated, there's a very thriving game dev scene here. And in fact, I think basically every month there's a game jam, and all the local game devs get together. BioWare very graciously will often host that game jam. They've done it a few times in their theater at their offices. So it's a pretty tight-knit community here. Typically, if somebody leaves BioWare or leaves Beamdog or leaves XGen, they go to one of the other outfits here in town. So there's a nice little community here.
It's a good scene. I mean, there's a lot of good people, and
I'd love to see more. I can't say that there's enough game devs here. I'd like to see way more people here, but I think we're pretty spoiled for Edmonton's location and isolation, I guess.
Yep. The question, I would assume this would wait until a UI refactor, but any plans for official controller support? Carpal tunnel syndrome sucks and my mouse keyboard time is limited these days. I think it's one of those things that we're definitely interested in.
Oh, yeah.
I think when I put Neverwinter together originally, the design, the radio menu, the concept of driving one character, it was very oriented towards the idea of running it with a controller. And we just never had the time to do it, so I think it's one of those things that we're going to get to it. It's just a question of when we can, and you are correct that a UI refactor would probably come before we go to the controller, but it wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong about things like that.
We got some more danger coming in.
More undead.
This is a pretty cool adventure, and I just like to repeat that this was totally created just for the enhanced editions very recently. The people running Arelith put this together. It's really cool, and it's just an example of some of the stuff that you can do in the enhanced edition. So I'm really happy that they put this together, and they were very gracious in hosting this whole event for us. Last night, as I mentioned before, I had logged in and I got a whole tour of the server from Iron Gron, the head administrator of the server.
And that kind of brings to mind, I mean, one of the earlier questions was how do we showcase community content that we think is awesome? And you're watching it right now. Mm-hmm. This is how we're going to do it going forward. We're going to get Phil. We're going to throw him in. He's going to play.
Sometimes I'll pay enough attention to stay alive. Sometimes I won't.
There will probably be much Phil death involved.
Although, okay, so in thinking about it, just imagine what happened. I logged into this digital world last night, met this person who has, ethereal admin powers, and he gave me a tour of his virtual realm. What a cyberpunk thing to do. In the year 2017, you will get to meet with people over the internet and have them give you tours of their crazy fantasy settings.
That's nuts, man. You're talking crazy
some
stuff.
Ready Player One stuff right here.
Crazy stuff, man.
All right, I think
any plans for a new splash screen and main menu? It's kind of wimpy at 1080p. You should see it at 4K. If you don't scale the UI, it's like there's this tiny micro box. Once we had scaling in, it's like, oh, that's much better. I think ultimately that comes down to part of the UI redo. It's really a question of if we build it and it's easy to build new content that looks great, we'll build lots of new content that looks great.
Uh-oh. Where's this going to take us?
Question, tea or coffee? I know not this tea thing you speak of. Coffee. Much coffee.
Uh-oh.
Actually, this much coffee. It'll hold four shots of
You gotta show them. It's already visible.
4 shots of espresso, baby.
So this is the Baldur's Gate Pale Ale glass that we have. WotC actually sent Wizards of the Coast, I should say.
Yep.
WotC is our shorthand for them.
Yep.
Wizards sent us this whole set of cool pint glasses that have like Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate,
Neverwinter
Sword Coast, all sorts of cool things on there.
Yep.
I think you could actually buy them on their website. So if you're a big beer drinker or you just like beverages in general.
Or you like cool glasses.
There you go.
Because I think most of them get used for water. Although today is beer day, so.
So this is the last day before we leave the office for holidays. So we might have gotten a little loosey-goosey before the show.
I think half of our staff is
lit right now.
Well on their way.
You can't see it, but behind the camera, there's this whole conga line going on. They're trying to distract us, but we're not going to let it happen because we are extremely professional.
They could be bringing food in, which I was forced to eat on live stream because my willpower failed. Totally failed that will check. Speaking of which, we're going to be back in a couple weeks. So it's going to be the next 2 weeks. There will be no streams because we will be eating turkey and getting fat. Because that's what Christmas is for, getting fat.
Some people prefer geese, but those people are wrong.
You know, geese,
turkey is the superior bird.
Well, I'm a big fan of geese being dead.
So
I'm not a fan of eating them because they're kind of greasy.
Well, it really depends on how you prepare them, but like it's so much effort to get it right, and I'm really more of a microwave the turkey kind of guy. So I just throw it in my big industrial microwaver for about an hour, and when it comes out, beautiful, soggy turkey for the whole family.
That paints a very dark and apocalyptic version, our vision of turkeyness.
You should see me microwave a steak.
You make me sad, Phil.
I'm sorry, that isn't actually something that happens.
You make me really
no
sad.
One does that.
There's a question about the ability to scale and rotate things. Was that in-game only or a toolset feature we're running as well? I believe that's game side only right now. Toolset-wise, I haven't looked.
I think the long-term goal for the tool set is eventually we're going to expose more things in there, but the exact feature set of what we expose is kind of TBD. We want to knock out the features in the engine first so that they work. And then once they're functional, once people are happy with how they work, it has all the features that they want, then we can go in and expose it in the toolkit. But sort of adding features to the toolkit right away before we've really established how they should function is probably not a wise idea.
Yeah, I think a rule of thumb in game development generally is you do things in a very, very horrible fashion that is not easily reproducible. And then once you've done it, you figure out the right way to do it multiple times, so that you can actually do something properly, and then you've figured out the tools and how to build it. So, Phil, there's a request that you sing some Christmas carols. Sing some Christmas carols.
I don't know any Christmas carols. I'm bad at Christmas, man.
Yeah, I'm like.
I brought these gifts for you, something. I don't know the words.
Yeah, that's the extent of.
There you go.
Phil
sings the hits. Actually, we've got a Todd here in our office, our HR person who you go to for all of your problems.
HR/finance/
he's got a whole album of Christmas hits that he's selling for $19.99, tax not included. So sure if you send us an order form requesting Todd Sings the Hits, you will receive a CD of Christmas classics sung by our very own Todd. And this is a real thing that I am not lying about at all, and I will not throw your order forms in the trash when we receive them.
Man, that guy's tough.
He's tough, but I got a tough team behind me.
I think many of your team are not able to contribute in this fight because you were in a narrow corridor. Which is one of those big things we wanted to do with Neverwinter, was that idea of kind of being able to pinch enemies down into a narrow corridor so you could fight them more effectively.
Like the classic BG strategy of open a door, cloud kill, close it again.
That's not a strategy, that's a twink. That's like, I'm going to find a game, I'm going to whittle on it, I'm going to cheat. That's not cheating, it's understanding a fundamental flaw in the game implementation that allows you to do something that is cheesy. So it isn't really cheating. It's fromage. It's cheese. Fromage is French for cheese, by the way.
Is it?
It is.
All right.
Fromage. And earlier I said manger because I'm eating.
Oh, there's a trap. There were traps all over.
Oh my god, that's why you guys were dying. So it's about time we should give away another t-shirt. We've got a winner. And the winner is PKD Fan.
Picked a fan.
Picked a fan.
There you go.
Picked a fan.
All right, so we're going to finish off this adventure here. We're going to track down this Jarl, and we're going to finish him off. And then we're very quickly going to jump over to Baldur's Gate and finish off the stream. But we're getting real close here. I can smell them.
So we're an hour and 25 minutes into an hour-long stream.
So, I mean, this is a pretty cool adventure. It's taken us an hour.
Your pizza is just sitting there getting cold.
I am not eating that. That is disgusting pepperoni, and I don't care who knows.
You are wrong. That was brilliant, my friend.
I will. You can eat it then. I'm
not going to eat your half-eaten cold pizza.
Which door is it? So we got a bit of a classic D&D puzzle here. We're presented with a bunch of doors, but they're all trapped, and we don't know which one's the right one. So we've got our rogue here, and they're going to take a gander at the doors here.
Attempting to de-trapify said doors?
Man, there's a lot of traps in here.
Man, this is Trap Central. Question. What do you guys dislike the most about Baldur's Gate, Infinity Engine games, and Neverwinter Nights?
That they don't run at 60 FPS. It drives me up the wall.
Really?
Well, that's more of a recent concern because, now I'm used to it.
So, I think Baldur's Gate...
Sorry, Thief. I meant Thief.
Yeah, I think ultimately what... Baldur's Gate is kind of hilarious because you waltz into a combat, and either it's a cakewalk or you're decimated. Like, just wiped right out. And there's no really... Baldur's Gate is the game you learn by dying. You're like, oh, I'm going to go through... Oh, God, I just got wiped out by a dragon. Okay, now I got to think, what's my strategy for that dragon? And then I got to buff my characters. And it's almost like a thought experiment where you're deconstructing what the designer was thinking. And anytime I can feel the hand of the designer, I get annoyed.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like that about Baldur's Gate because I see BG battles, at least the tough ones, as like, this is a puzzle. And you solve this puzzle with the toolkit that you have, and your toolkit is your party. So based on who you have in your party, there's different ways you can solve this puzzle. So that's kind of how I approach BG-style battles.
Fair enough.
I can also see how, like, if your fantasy is, oh, I'm the hero that just destroys things, then BG isn't necessarily going to be your bag. BG is basically like Football Manager, but for a D&D party. And Neverwinter is more, hey, I'm directly controlling one guy. This is a little more Diablo style.
And on the Neverwinter front, I mean, the pathfinding drives me up the wall sometimes. It's mostly good, but when it falls apart in annoying ways. Like, part of that is the client-server framework, so the pathfinding's actually happening on the server. So the client is essentially interpolating based on the feedback the server gets. So sometimes you get this kind of jump forward-back behavior where the client's anticipating you can go that way, but the server actually doesn't allow it. So you get this kind of hitch behavior. Will the server backend be handled to be updated to handle servers that use multiple shards/sections? That sounds like a feature request. That should be on the forums, and it should get voted up, and it should make it to the input board, and from the input board, it should make it to the working on it Trello.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the features that people are suggesting are like, yeah, we want to do that, absolutely, but we just need to know the details of what you're expecting.
Well, and the process is, I mean, it's not like we don't have ideas on what should be done. It's getting stuff through the system is all about getting everybody's feedback on what they imagine it being and kind of trying to decide on almost a cohesive version of what it's going to be before we start rolling on it. Because the last thing we want to do is kind of surprise people with, hey, here's our perfect implementation of this thing that you asked for that does nothing of what you actually wanted. So we're really, really careful.
Looks like we found the Jarl, and we managed to lure him out of his lair. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. He just exploded one of your guys.
Ouch.
That was harsh. That is cruel, man. Trent, do you not eat the crust? After the finger bone crunching comment, I became very self-conscious, and I thought the crust would sound like me grinding rocks to paste, so I decided not to eat the crust just based on that, because you made me self-conscious about my eating sounds. But I was hungry enough to keep on eating the rest of the pizza anyway.
So we managed to defeat the Jarl. Unfortunately, his treasure is far away, so now we got to go get it. And along the way, we're going to have to deal with these zombies. An ice zombie. Neat.
Spellcaster, you know the rule of Trent. Kill the caster first.
But the ice zombie was closer. Here we go. I think we're fine.
It's always kill the caster first.
That's true. Although skeleton priests, I don't think they cast healing spells because they're undead. So there we go.
This has been a cool little adventure. I think you and your party are doing...
Now check this out. Look at this cool bridge that they made. And look at this. It doesn't even show up on the map, so you have to actually explore it.
It's a dynamic spawn. That's cool.
I spelled bridge wrong, but whatever. Oh, are they... okay, they're getting involved in a fight over there. Well, I'll help them out.
Little does Phil know that the bridge now dynamically unspawns behind him.
It would be cool if it could, like, collapse.
The treasure is lost for all time.
If you cast a fire spell, it just melts the bridge. That would be neat. And that's actually probably something that they can do on the server.
Yeah, question. Is Steam Workshop support something you're definitely committed to at this point? Or do we need to make sure it makes it to the Trello board? I think it should go through the Trello board as the proper way to do it.
For me personally, I'm very enthusiastic about Steam Workshop support. I think that it's a really, really good idea. I'm going to be pushing hard for it.
And I'm of the opinion that no portion of our user base should be able to do some things that other users can't. So I'm going to try and look for a solution for that.
Because we also don't really want to split the community. I mean, while Steam Workshop is extremely handy and useful, we also want, you know, people on GOG, people on Beamdog to be able to easily access these modules, because there's so much great content out there, but it's just hard to get at. And if we can fix that, then we make your lives so much better.
Yeah, and I mean, that's ultimately one of the conundrums we kind of run into. It's like, there's a platform here that could allow a better experience for a portion of our users. So do we support that and risk fragmenting the base, or do we go the other direction and deny those features so that we can roll out potentially a lesser feature to the entire audience? So these are the things that keep us up at night. 3 in the morning when you're flapping over Steam Workshop, as a auto downloader, as a content, highlighting. These are the things that, yeah, these are the reasons I don't sleep anymore.
All right, we're going to hop out here. Thank you very much to everybody who joined the Persistent World server to have some fun with us.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty neat.
I enjoyed just watching you guys play. That was.
And again, totally made for the EEs. They put this together very recently. It really shows off what the game has become over the past 10 years. There's so much stuff that you can do with Neverwinter Nights. And I'm really excited to see the kind of mods and whatnot that get made in the Enhanced Edition once we unlock even more stuff, give you more abilities.
Dude, the future is so bright.
Don't say it. Don't say it. All right, if
Future's
anybody
so bright, I don't even need to finish that sentence, baby.
If anybody's running BGEE 2.5, the beta, if you want to come join me, I'm going to be hanging out in Candlekeep with my character Carl Burpo.
As always.
And a Lowry forming party. So if you see the game called Dings, 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 that's me. The saved game is called Arby's. And we're ready to go. So
sometimes these little things give me insight into your brain that I don't want.
I await everybody that's coming. So we're not going to spend too much time in Baldur's Gate here. We're just going to sort of let people join. This is really our way of encouraging you to, hey, check out the multiplayer in BG 2.5, BG2 2.5, and Icewind Dale 2.5. Give us as much feedback and testing as you can, because we want this to be rock solid. We want this to be a good experience for you. We want you to be able to play cross-platform. So if you're on Android, your friend's on iOS, your other friend's on Mac, your other weird friend's on Linux, and your normal friend is on Windows. I'm going to get so much hate mail from...
So, Phil, right now you are playing Baldur's Gate 1.
Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition 2.5 beta. Nobody's joining yet. I'll give it a couple minutes here. But until then, let's take a look at Candlekeep. Ooh, fancy. Let's find Gorion. No, let's not, because he's going to talk to me.
Yeah, I still remember trying to do this whole, how do you dodge Imoen and talk to Gorion? And then once you get outside, it's like, how do you avoid Imoen joining your party?
We got a person. Double Demas. Double Demas? Double Demas? All right, so I guess we can give him a character, or he's going to create a character. We'll give this to Double Demas.
Excellent.
And he can create a character.
Double Demas is creating a character.
Double Demas high school football rules. Little Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure joke for you. Reaching back into the classics. That's what you get here at Beamdog, is references to the early 90s.
References by old people.
Yeah. Initially on the stream, when we got this awesome green screen behind us, which you can't see because we're currently focused on the screen, we were going to do the classic Wayne's World joke of, hi, we're in Delaware. But in the end, we decided not to, because I think 1 out of 8 people on Earth would get that, you know. So, all right, we're going to get back into Candlekeep here. There we go.
Yeah. What do you want?
So we have a random person. I don't know who they are, but now they're part of our game.
Top of my to-do.
And they're using one of the new portraits.
Top of my to-do list.
Look at this. They're following me. Incredible. Let's buy some equipment from Winthrop. So having tested Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition about 18 billion times, Winthrop's voice set is burned into my brain. So
yeah, the elf...
my hotel's as clean as an elven arse. Yep. Which, funny line, also tells you a little bit of lore about the Forgotten Realms. Elven asses. They're clean.
Top of my to-do list.
I always wondered about that comment. Always wondered.
Also, what happens if you're an elf and you talk to him and he's like, yeah, my hotel's as clean as your arse? And it's just like...
I would take offense at that.
I could go in several directions based on what you just said to me.
You have painted a weird picture, and you've kind of creeped me out there, Winthrop.
Top of my to-do list.
All right, so it looks like it's just me and Double Demas here. His character is Halavan, the companion to Carl Burpo.
As always, your names are legend.
Carl Burpo is actually a classic name. He came over to the Sword Coast with the Burpo family several generations ago, and they've made quite a name for themselves, buying and selling root beers, anything gassy that, you know, can give you a lot of gas. John Delar, what's up, buddy? Hey there, Carl Burpo. I see you're up early this day. Well, your father, Gorion, has asked me a strange favor. Seems like he wants you to learn some fighting and asked me to be the teacher, so I hope you brought your staff with you.
So this is the nod to rat killing that must appear in every game.
Eat it, John Delar. Haha. You did good, kid, especially after Eric started firing those arrows at you.
God damn it, Eric.
I'm sure your father would be proud. You should go talk to the gate warden if you want some experience in fighting with a group of people. You can find him just south of here. Out there, it can be pretty important to know how to fight with allies at your side.
Allies at your side are very important. Announcer voice, Phil.
If I hadn't gotten this job, I would have gotten into radio. Because I've got a face
for
it, you know?
For radio, yes.
I've got a real face for radio.
That is a really sad, tired joke made by old people.
Careful with that joke. It's an antique. All right, so we're getting pretty punchy here, and I don't think anyone else is going to join. So we're going to do one last giveaway here. We're going to give away a copy of Neverwinter Nights Digital Deluxe and a T-shirt together.
And a T-shirt. 2 things at once. Are we crazy? We're crazy here. We're going over the top with this.
We're going to take it to the limit.
We're going to take it to the limit.
Take it to the limit.
And the winner is Inlines
33. You get a copy of Neverwinter Nights Digital Deluxe, the enhanced edition, of course, and a Neverwinter Nights T-shirt, which we will send to where you live, which I hope is somewhere that has cheap shipping, because
we're getting hosed on shipping.
Shipping T-shirts to Serbia costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
we're dying on the shipping, man.
Sorry, Halavan. You're on your own.
Yep. And Phil is out. So it's going to be a couple weeks where we're gone. We'll see you guys back in the new year. Have a great Christmas. Have a good holiday. Enjoy. Eat a lot of food. And
and don't forget, play the 2.5 beta for Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale. Give us as much multiplayer feedback as you possibly can. please pick up Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition on Beamdog. Get into the head start. Start creating things. Start breaking things. Start doing whatever you want to do, and tell us where the game falls short.
Yeah, because especially on the BG, on BG right now, we've got people just sitting there waiting anxiously to fix any problems you encounter. So the earlier they can hear about the problems, find the bugs, nail them, fix them, boom, the happier they are. So make people happy by finding the bugs.
Sorry, I meant push it to the limit.
Push it to the limit.
And we're going to end off with some copyrighted music.
We are.
Push it to the limit, folks. We'll see you next year. We'll be back in a few weeks, and we are going to be continuing our work on Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and Planescape Torment. Thanks again from Beamdog, and we will see you soon.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.